Oh, What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Review Show. I'm your host, Chris. Join me and my co-hosts, Kelsey and JoJo. We're back at it again to talk about Falcon and Winter Soldier. Look at that. First time, episode 4. I got it correct. Exactly.
We're so proud of you. Now you have 2 more shots to do it again.
Oh, my God. We have a doozy of an episode. I think we actually have a lot of good shit to kind of dive into on this one. I'm actually excited for this review show to see your guys' thoughts and stuff, because the episodes have been somewhat slow. I won't say they were too slow, because they were still interesting enough to keep me interested in the story, but they have been slow, and I was like...
They were building.
It's episode 4. We got 6 episode season, our series. Something kind of needs to happen sooner or later. So, and this was the goddamn episode to happen. So, woo! Yeah, it was great. So yeah, diving right off, just my first impressions on the episode. It was good. This was a really good episode. I started out with, okay, cool. We're still doing a little bit more building with how Zemo's fitting in with, his plan on when he's going to change sides here. His creepy fucking song, by the way. That was so creepy.
I hated that.
Holy shit. That was creepy. That was
freaked me the fuck out, and I look over at Scott's like, "That's not how you approach children. That's not how you approach children."
With candy, by all,
and it worked.
It did.
It was totally. They loved it.
I don't know if that's why they loved
it.
I think the kids were in love with the fact they were getting free candy. I don't know if they really cared too much about the song.
Did not like.
God, that song was so creepy. I literally wrote that down as a topic to talk about too, about how creepy that fucking song was. I was like, what is happening right now? Oh my gosh. But,
and he's like, yeah, I'm good with kids. I'm like, nope, no, you're not.
The results speak for themselves. He got a small child to lead him to a funeral.
I mean, yeah, that's fair. It's not wrong. He's definitely fair, but yeah, that was nuts. That was nuts. But so, and then like I said, we kind of built into the second part of the episode where things really went off the fucking rails. Once again, as always, this is not a spoiler-free show, so if you're worried about getting spoiled, go watch the episode, then come back here. If you don't care, we'll still be here talking. So, man, I'm so mad that it took me this long to say it, but halfway through that episode, I was like, you know what? I really like Battlestar. I really like Battlestar. And then he fucking died this episode. I was like, son of a bitch.
Well, and we're mostly assuming he died, but I would be shocked if he didn't.
I would be very surprised if he's not dead. Very surprised. I mean, to be fair, it is comics, but very surprised.
Well, yeah, but I honestly felt like they were setting him up from the beginning to die. He was his foil the whole time. Whenever he's doing anything that's questionable, Battlestar's like, "Hey, maybe don't," and he's like, "But I'm gonna," and he's like, "Hey, maybe don't." And so there was no way he wasn't gonna come out of this damaged in some way. Most likely did.
So I'm really hoping that the one line he said, we get playbacks in Walker's head of where he literally sits there and goes, think about all the lives we would have saved if we would have had that serum. I really hope that plays back in Walker's head through the last couple episodes here of whenever he's like, but I had the serum and I still couldn't save your life. I really hope that is just kind of what just drives this fucking anger. Ugh.
Yeah. JoJo, what were you going to say?
Oh, I had a feeling he was going to die more or less from when he was introduced because he wasn't listed in the main credits. He seemed weirdly prominent to then not be credited alongside
that's fair.
Sam's sister. So I just had a feeling.
That's fair.
Based on that. Also, that was kind of one of the most strangely brutal death scenes I've in any of these movies, and a lot just the way it just happened. It was just here's a normal comic book movie fight going on. Dudes doing kung fu moves, throwing each other around, and then just hit something too hard and fucking snaps.
I legit thought that he was gonna get stabbed. I thought that's how he was gonna die. Like whenever she hit him, I thought like there was gonna be like a knife in him or something because the whole "what's with all the knives?" and they all
why
had
do they have
fucking
all the
knives.
knives?
Yeah, exactly. But like I mean, she hit him so fucking hard, caved his chest in, and then he hit that fucking pillar and just snapped his spine. I was like, holy shit.
Well, go ahead, JoJo.
Whichever one of them said, he said, "What's with all the knives?" And then they cut to a scene of Battlestar with a knife cutting himself free.
Exactly. Yeah, I literally said the same thing. He's like, "What's with all the knives?" And I was like, "Well, it's working out for your buddy right now." So.
Well, the thing that I thought was interesting about his death scene is so much of the MCU so far has been superhumans fighting superhumans, and we've had very few people that are not superhuman. I would most notably, obviously, Black Widow and Hawkeye, and even they are kind of superhuman, and they take their weaknesses and they set themselves up to not be taken advantage of for their weaknesses. And I think the thing that's making this that feels slightly off with this particular show is up until this point, we've primarily been watching humans fighting humans, and we've seen a little bit of the advantages of being a little bit advanced with like the Falcon suit or the Winter Soldier's arm kind of thing and his amazing training. But it's mostly been humans on humans. And so now seeing a human be killed in a very normal human way and not get back up, it's like bringing the MCU more into our world and making it more real. And that's also why I think that we're seeing so many knives and things like and guns in these fights, because the people that they're fighting with haven't been superhuman and haven't been trained as superhuman. They spent most of their life fighting for themselves as human beings with human weaknesses. So knives, guns, like that's how you become superhuman when you're just fighting human beings.
Right.
And I think it's interesting, he didn't die to a knife. He died to somebody misusing their strength on a human being.
Yeah.
Because I don't think she meant to kill him.
No.
But she did.
Yeah. The only person that she wanted blood from was easily Captain America at that point.
Oh, yeah. Because she didn't give a shit about anybody else. She doesn't do individualized damage. She does symbol damage.
Right.
And she was very clear about that. Like, she blew up that building and she didn't care that there were people inside, because if there weren't casualties, nobody was going to care about that building getting blown up. So we had to blow up the building and we had to kill somebody. But it was part of the symbol. She doesn't want to do personal damage. I don't think she meant to kill him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think she just, didn't care either way. Well, no. I can't tell. After he hits and clearly dies, she has a look I don't know if it's like, oh no, I killed him, or if it's, oh no,
he's
now
coming
this
after
guy's
me.
real mad.
Yeah.
So,
or if it's surprised at her own strength. Like there's a lot of different things that look could have been, and my guess is she was probably trying to channel more than one thing, including oh shit in multiple different ways.
Well, one thing that I really liked about that, and I definitely want to save the majority of the conversation about this specific scene for the end of the show, which is Captain America fucking beating the shit out of that guy with a shield. But that death and then her killing him, I got really like just strong vibes about, and I know we've talked about it a couple times with the What If series that's going to be coming out, but the Spider-Man aspect of, like I said, him not understanding his powers, killing that robber that killed Uncle Ben. Like I got that sense from that, and I really enjoyed that of like, holy shit, like this is what I can do now. And not having that hero mentality to stop yourself from going too far, because a lot of people forget, because it was done in the comics the best, obviously. I had no problem with it in the movie. But Spider-Man's first actual killing of somebody, with it being Gwen Stacy, because him not understanding how to properly save somebody.
Yeah.
You have those different aspects of like how it plays out. And what it is that they consider to, be that differentiator between being someone who's going to turn out to be a villain versus someone's going to turn out to be a hero and use their powers responsibly, is kind of how either one, you adapt to the situation to not cause the casualty, or if the casualty happens, how you choose to move forward with that power and understand it and respect it. And I'm very interested to see her. I mean, there's not going to be too much, obviously, because there's only 2 episodes left, but I'm very interested to see her character development with how she chooses to move forward with that. And how Walker is going to be able to move forward with that as well. I think that's going to be very interesting for these next 2 episodes. Probably going to be like the main thing I'm going to be looking out for. I'm very interested in seeing how that plays out.
I wonder if they're going to, I'm hoping that they're going to go 2 different directions with it.
That would be cool. And if they do, it's pretty obvious at this point what directions which one's going to go. Walker's definitely going to go down the bad path. And she's going to start looking a little bit more towards like, fuck, we're actually like, fucking
we're playing with really big forces and we can really hurt something. And I think that's important because she's being, and this is one of those wonderful moments where politics like interacts with our media. And I absolutely love that. But like we're seeing somebody who's labeled as a terrorist, who's acting as a terrorist for the benefit of people and protecting people that she views as unprotected. And now she's fucked up in a major way. Actually, she's fucked up a couple times in a major way, depending on how you look at it. He's viewed as a hero. He's mostly been driven by a desire to stop a terrorist.
I think he's just been driven by the desire to uphold the symbol that was passed down to him.
I mean, it's just ego in a lot of ways. It's just kind of prove himself.
I've wondered since the beginning if he's trying to get the serum. Sorry, I cut you off, JoJo. What were you going to say?
He's just trying to live up to the thing he's supposed to be, kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we've got a guy labeled as a hero, driven primarily by his own desires to achieve and accomplish. Mm-hmm. That's just fucked up in a very major and very serious way. And I feel like the motivations and the fears of these 2 people is what's going to change their trajectory. And it's whether or not the world's going to accept them that I'm going to be watching. I'm going to be watching whether or not the world is going to continue labeling her a terrorist, even though she tries doing fewer bad things or using her power in a way that is more beneficial and more directly beneficial and has less of a chance for harm. And whether or not they're just going to continue that narrative because it's a convenient narrative, or if the world's going to shift, which is how we would want that to work. Like, does that make sense? I say want that to work when we have a character that leans towards the light, we want them to receive the affirmation that that's a good thing to do.
Right.
And when they don't, you end up with characters like Bucky, who's doing his goddamn best, but you still have people like Iron Man back when he was around that didn't trust him and didn't like him. And even Sam to some degree.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. I mean, I feel like the way that scene was played with all the phones out, I feel like it's going to be hard for them to not paint him in that bad light now of like...
Oh, he's going to get painted in a bad light. It's just whether or not she's going to get saved.
Yeah, I mean, it is going to be interesting. It really depends on what they're going to continue to do with her character moving through the show. Like, if she's still running around blowing up buildings and shit and killing people, I mean, no one's going to give a shit. But if she's actually like, all right, cool, like, we need to actually focus on what... Because, like, I like how Sam put it. I agree with your fight. I just don't agree with how you're fighting it. Like, I completely agree with that, which was awesome. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they move forward with that one. But
one thing I think is super awkward that I don't know that we can just address very briefly is right now the moral pillars of the show are the minority characters. We've got Sam and we have Battlestar. And those are the 2 that are trying to drive the morals and hold up the, like, guys, we have to not suck. That is our freaking job here, is to not suck and to do the right and best thing. And all the non-minority characters are just going all over the place with it. They are doing whatever the fuck they want for other reasons. Go ahead.
To be fair, Carly is half, the actress is half Jamaican.
She absolutely is, which is extremely relevant to me and in this particular conversation, because she is trying to hold up a moral pillar. She's also been taught throughout her life that no one's going to listen to her unless she is willing to do violence. So we have that going in there as well. We just have like where Sam, in case you didn't watch the DFU, go watch the DFU on Falcon because it's totally worth it. Where Sam has spent his life being like told, hey, this is the right thing. You know what? I'm going to shameless plug my show. Fuck off, Chris. You're in the goddamn show too. Anyways, but Sam's lived his life being shown like this is how you do morality and this is how you do morality when it's hard. And that's not something that Carly's been shown necessarily. Yeah.
That's fair.
But I think that's a relevant part of the conversation.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So, kind of going back to a couple different things here. So since we're talking about Sam and his moral aspect, I want to talk about his fighting for a second here. His defensive moves against the chick with the fucking spear, that was sick as fuck. Like, he had nothing on him. I was impressed. I was like, holy I mean, he still got his ass kicked, but I mean, who can blame him? I mean, those fucking, like, I like how he literally was like, you would be better off tankling with Bucky before you would them. And it's like, yeah, they're going to fuck you up. Like,
I like how everybody in that room, except John Walker, was like, I don't want to fucking do this. These women will kick my ass. I do not want to do this. And John Walker's like, I'm Captain America. Nothing can stop me. And I loved watching him get his ass kicked and be incapacitated. And I honestly, sorry to take this conversation away from you a little bit, but I wonder if he would have taken the serum at the end if she hadn't incapacitated his shield.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we were talking about when we were watching it, was just straight off, like, if there was not enough motivation behind it, getting his ass kicked in front of everybody by someone who he thought he was just going to push right the fuck out the way. And not only that, but getting his shield taken away from him. Like, she even picked it up and put it on her own arm. Like, yeah. It's like, God, that cool. Never would have happened to Steve Rogers, but Steve Rogers would have never put himself in that situation to begin with. So it was
Steve Rogers would have walked in being fucking respectful. And that would have helped a lot in that situation.
Yeah, just a little bit. Just a little bit.
But it, like, you could see it in his eyes, though, like, top-notch acting right there, because you could see it when he couldn't get his arm out. Like, you could see him realize, like, I'm nothing, like, think to himself, I'm nothing without this shield. Like, I have no chance without this shield, and these people aren't even superhuman. And kind of that like, he is a character that is 100% driven by fear. And it's trauma-based fear, so I get it. But it's also, he's just driven by fear. It's fear of dropping of not holding up the honor of the shield. It's fear of losing people. It's fear of not being good enough. But it is just fear, and that's why he's coming across as angry and hostile and terrifying and like unhinged, because he's letting his fear control every single one of his decisions and reactions.
Well, I mean, that too. We talked about the fact of, you know, how absolutely nerve-wracking it has to be to try to live up to Steve Rogers' shoes. But on top of that, I mean, once again, you have a normal person, I mean, above average if you want, but normal person who's trying to live up to someone who literally is not, like, by any stretch of the means, like, not normal whatsoever. So, yeah, it gives you, like, whenever I first started watching the show, like, I wanted to feel bad for him. I just don't like him. Like I said, he has that very punchable face. Like, I don't like him at all. I do not like John Walker at all.
But he's doing a great job being exactly what they need him to be.
Oh yeah,
like,
100%.
Playing it well.
Like, he's turning out to be like the Joffrey of, like, the Marvel universe right now. Like, it's that guy that is so good at being the person you just love to hate. So
during that fight between the Dora Milaje, is that how you say that? I can't remember.
I think it's a hard J. I think it's Milaje.
Milaje? Okay. Yeah, I'm so sorry I didn't pronounce that right. But I love every time they cut back to Zemo and he's just like sipping his whiskey, or
sipping,
he's just like
staying back,
stepping to the side. Like, Zemo's just like, they're not here for, like, they're here for me, but nobody's paying attention to me. I'm gonna duck out the back. See you guys later.
And then when he's gone, one of them, I think Sam says he pulled an El Chapo. Which
it's
crazy that El Chapo could exist in this universe in the same way. Like that no one ever just sent the Hulk to catch him or something. I don't know. Well,
imagine that.
Gives me hope that one day
the Hulk just squeezing through fucking sewer systems and shit downtown, trying to fucking go. Yeah. That job would be too small for the Hulk. They wouldn't send the Hulk after that. They'd be like. I mean. We've talked about this with DC characters. That's shit detail. Like that's like it's like an Ant-Man. Go get on that, you know? Like, all right, jump in the sewer, Scott Lang. Fucking go get Chapo. All right, like that's not a Hulk thing, dude. You can't send Hulk.
No, I sure. Just whoever's in the neighborhood.
As much as I hate to think about him as shit detail, that would be like a Spider-Man thing. It's a Spider-Man, quick. Did you go get this normal guy? Oh, poor Spidey. But yeah, no, it was a really cool, interesting fight scene. And the fact that they were able to just remove Bucky's arm, I did not see that coming. That was like huge.
Can we talk about his vulnerability for a second? So,
Yeah.
do any of you have anybody with prosthetics limbs in your friend group? Do you guys know anybody personally? Because I'm very, very close to someone,
No.
and she's very open about it, and she and I are super close, and so it's just something where every now and then, like, I'll ask a question or something like that, and the inherent vulnerability of somebody with a prosthetic limb is extremely high. And obviously I'm not talking about the Winter Soldier here, but it is extremely high. And it's one of those situations where if that's taken away from you, there's so much less that you can do. And there's so many ways in which the world around you needs to be adjusted for you. And the incredible vulnerability that Sebastian Stan reflected through the Winter Soldier's eyes when that arm was removed, and he realized, like, it's like 80% of what makes him the Winter Soldier at this point is that freaking arm. And if he loses that, he loses his place in the Avengers. He loses so much of the respect of the people around him because he's now just a man that is missing a limb and has some special training, but that training relies on him being able-bodied and being able to use that arm as a shield, as something to incapacitate people, and the incredible vulnerability knowing that can be taken away from him at any point in time. And it didn't take him back down to human. It took him further than that to being I don't see people that are missing limbs as disabled, but it took him to disabled, and that was reflected in his face. And I thought it was incredible acting and a very honest portrayal of the vulnerability that those people face every day, and it was amazing.
Yeah, he had good face stuff in this episode. I mean, between that and like the opening or very early scene of him realizing the words don't control him anymore, he's crying. Like, there's some real good Sebastian Stan acting in this episode for sure.
Yeah, that's a good point. That whole scene with him being released from the words. It didn't surprise me that the Wakandans would work with him on that to free him from that, but it was still incredible to see.
And all that stuff is kind of just implied in the movies. It's just like you see him hanging out in Wakanda at the end of one of the movies, and then it's kind of all you get.
Yeah.
And then he's just there.
Yeah. I mean, the only hint that we had at that was the little kids that were, saying the White Wolf whenever he was walking through the villages and stuff like that of, know, any kind of like, oh, okay, shit was going down. And that was more for the people who are actually comic book readers who know who the fuck that is. So, you are aware that he did take this soldier serum, right? Soldier?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, because you were like, without his arm, he's just like a normal man. And I'm like, I don't know if I would use the word normal. I mean, he's still got like super soldier strength. So, because he did take the serum. So, I mean, he's not
did he?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yeah, they forced it. Yeah, he was the second official dosage. They forced him to take it. Yes,
they forced him to take it. Yes, that's right.
He didn't take it willingly. No, not like fucking.
Because they asked him if he would have taken it, and he said no.
Right.
And so it was a matter of he was forced.
Hydra did it to him.
Yeah, Hydra forced it to him. Yeah.
Which is a thing that might come into play still, because after you deal with John Walker and the Flag Smasher people, you still have Bucky, who is a super soldier, and Zemo still doesn't like that in theory. So there's a question.
Yeah.
It was interesting in this episode, I think, to see how sincere Zemo seems to be about what he's saying.
Yes.
In regard to that, like, he saw that serum on the ground and just straight up smashed it. Like, he could have taken it himself or anything. He's just like, nope.
I was definitely on team. I want to see Super Soldier Serum Zemo. Like, that would be fucking great,
totally.
Dude. But his conviction is so good, dude.
You really get a vibe from the performance or whatever that he actually respects Sam legitimately. Isn't just putting that on. So he's interesting. I'm curious to see.
Actor's doing a great job.
If they come into conflict at all at this point, or if he's really along for this ride because he just wants to stop this thing.
Yeah, that authenticity from a character that is portrayed as very shifty. Like I think earlier I said that he's definitely chaotic neutral. Like he's focused on a particular goal, and as long as your goal and his goal aligns, he's there. But the moment the path diverges, he's done. And if you get in his way, he'll take you out. Like seeing such intense authenticity and actually had that portrayed. It's likened to, I think, where you talked about Killmonger. Like Killmonger had one goal and he never fucking deviated for a second, and that's part of what made him as amazing as he was. And now we're seeing them do that again with Zemo, where they are allowing characters to have arcs. Iron Man had an amazing arc over the course of the first movie to the last one he was in, but they are also having characters whose arcs are irrelevant from their goals, and they are unrelated, and their goals are what drive them, and it's very cool.
Right. Talking about the scene where Zemo stomped out the soldier serum. So that's what I wanted to bring up, because it's actually funny, because I didn't know this till today whenever I was doing research on it. But one of the biggest fan theories ties back to something that me and JoJo were talking about. I want to say it was the last episode, but it could have been the episode before that, where we were talking about the possibility of the Red Hulk being introduced. A lot of people thought that was going to be how the Red Hulk was going to be created in the MCU, was with the super soldier serum. And so now people are trying to think of how they would create a Red Hulk without the soldier serum now. Like, a lot of people are saying, well, I guess our fucking theory is debunked and we're not going to get a Red Hulk now. So, because that was the biggest thing that everybody did, including myself, was like, whenever it fell, I counted immediately like how many were on the ground. Because in May 20, there were 8 on the ground, not including the one that slid behind the water cooler that Walker took. So 11 of them are taken, I guess, at this point. Are just weren't with them, because I don't know if 11 counts up with how many people we've seen so far with actual superpowers at this point. We haven't seen.
I think 11. We know 4. No, we've seen at least 6 or 7, right? Because when they first came in, there were 7 people total that were just like picking up things and loading the truck. So that's 7 of the 11. So there's a few left that are unaccounted for.
If you assume all those people were super soldiers and not just her buddy, like there are people in the organization that they didn't necessarily give.
Yeah,
it's hard to say. I guess it seems like her Asian friend with the ponytail has it, and the guy they just killed has it.
Yeah, I would say, yeah. So those 3 for sure. Then I know the original guy that died at the very beginning for sure had it too. So that's 4 for sure. I feel like we've seen more like during fight scenes. I'd have to actually go back and watch like the original fight scene where they were on top of the 18-wheelers and see if all those people add up and stuff like that. But yeah, I feel like we've yet to see like the majority of the people who have taken it out of the 11, if it's been taken, or if there's not some stash somewhere else, which would be my guess. Like maybe like another secret location just for a couple in case shit does go wrong. She has a backup, because she doesn't seem very unorganized to me. Like, just that hiding spot alone, she doesn't seem very unorganized. So it's very hard for me to believe that she put that, something as important as that, all in one spot, that she didn't have a backup stash somewhere. And she only has 20, so it would have to have come from that stock. So I feel like there's maybe like 2 or maybe 3 vials somewhere that we just don't know yet. So,
you know what I'm grateful for, though? Oh, go ahead. Sorry, JoJo.
I was going to say, it's possible that the power broker dispersed some amount of it to someone else too.
I thought she got
a Red Hulk before the others got stolen.
I thought she stole all 20 though, or did that never get?
No,
confirmed?
That was what was specifically said. Is he said, "I made 20. She took all of them."
Okay, she did. Okay, never mind. So yeah, I don't know.
But that's also assuming, well, 2 things. A, that's assuming he's telling the truth to everybody, which he doesn't necessarily have a reason to tell the truth. Like, I understand the argument where he doesn't have a reason to lie. He also doesn't have a reason to tell the truth. Like, he doesn't trust people.
I feel he's pretty in the middle on that. Yeah, it could go either way. He doesn't have a reason to lie. He doesn't have a reason to tell the truth either. So,
and especially if the power brokers like got his family or got somebody he cares about and is like, you will lie if you're ever asked, like, just say she took them all, then he definitely has a reason to lie. We just don't have those background details.
Right.
But I am grateful that the MCU and the writers and everybody that's behind this story knows that the fans are detail-oriented, rabid, and will chase down any, like, hole.
Oh, yeah.
And so if there's a hole that's left, they, like, I wholeheartedly believe they know this is how many we're going to show getting destroyed. This is how many we were originally going to say we have, and this is what we have planned for everything. So there's not just going to end up being 21 of these things magically. They, like, it's either going to be intentional or it's going to be a genuinely royal fuck up that if you get something weird. Or, like, I think it's going to be intentional. It's my short story.
That's fair. So, yeah, it will be interesting to see if that actually is, you know, something that they end up using. Because, I mean, that would be completely out of any other story. I can't think of a single time where the Red Hulk's origin has ever been written where he got it from the super soldier serum. Because there was even, I believe, like one that they did, and it wasn't a long run, but it was like he got it just being out of proximity for how much he was hunting down the Hulk. That he got it from the radiation proximity of always being around the Hulk because he was constantly after him because Bruce Banner was dating his daughter and shit like that. And so he just really wanted to fucking kill him and get him out of the picture or something. So he was just always near him. And I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. That's stupid.
Don't like that.
Yeah. Also,
so it will be
make
interesting to see
continuity because we've seen that guy like twice.
Yeah, true. I mean, it would just be interesting to hear the reasons on why the change was so dramatic compared to all the other super soldiers that we've seen so far. Yeah, because that was something that was also very interesting to me. This show was the take, one with Zemo and then two with Battlestar, on the views of how the super soldier serum actually works mentally with people. And how Battlestar was like, you know, you have her and you have Steve Rogers. And then Zemo kind of gave off the whole feeling of like, we hold Steve Rogers. And this is just my opinion. He didn't specifically say this, but this is where I felt like that conversation was going, was like, we saw Steve Rogers as a hero because he didn't live long enough to become a villain. That's how I kind of felt that was.
Yeah.
Oh, see, I think there's just an aspect to the Steve Rogers. It wasn't like, he took it, but he didn't want it. He took it because he felt he needed to. Like, right. No, it was right. So that's where it differs from like even like
right. No, and I understand that.
I feel the power.
Right.
Actively.
No.
Like
right.
I think
and I
think
feel
he
like
actually
let JoJo finish.
I think he actually sees that Steve Rogers like was just uncommonly sincere in a way. Like that. I don't know, but.
I just feel like he was getting to the point that absolute power corrupts and that there's no way to go around it regardless who you are. Like sooner or later, the power of the super soldier serum is going to take over. And the only reason we didn't see Steve Rogers do that is because he didn't live long enough to be the super villain he could have turned into be.
But I don't think that works. He lived 100 years. Or, you know, he lived a long, he was around a long time.
So I have a follow-up to this that kind of, I think, may complicate this a little bit.
Yeah.
Once Steve Rogers was created, the world that created Steve Rogers and people like Steve Rogers could no longer exist. And they kept hinting on to this when they were talking about the desire to be superhuman cannot be separated from supremacist ideals. And so they were trying to, like, Steve Rogers was willing to undergo this not knowing what he would become, not knowing what it would do to him, not knowing what he could be. And so he was throwing himself into an experiment with no hope of being what he would be, if that makes sense. And then once he was who he became, once he was Captain America, now everybody else that is small, that is beaten up, that is whatever, has an idea that I could be Captain America if I'm given these things. And so the world is dramatically changed. And so once Steve Rogers is created, you can never have another one. Because now the possibility exists, and so everybody knows if I got this, I could be made that strong. I could be made that big. And that changes the mindset for everyone, that those two worlds are diametrically opposed and you cannot have the same person come out of the second world that you do out of the first. Does that make sense, what I'm trying to say? The look you're giving me, JoJo, says no.
I mean, yeah, in a sense, yes. But I think they're going to try to find a way to say that Sam can be like Steve. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that's where they're going to end up. Because he's going to insist he doesn't want it. Well, I guess, now it's all gone, so maybe he just never gets it. Maybe he just takes a shield and is an unsuper version of Captain America.
And gives himself permission to be his own Captain America.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think, Chris? What are your thoughts?
Well, it's just I was trying to, because I've got some stuff pulled up over here, and it was showing Isaiah Bradley, and it's whenever you go back and think about everybody who's been in the show so far, who has taken the serum besides Steve Rogers, like no one is in that light at all. Like even Bradley looks like he deals with a lot of, obviously he went through a lot of shit. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it, but he's got like temper issues, I mean, and so the fascinating aspect to me is that, so we talked about Steve Rogers not living long enough to become a supervillain. My curiosity from that stems is, does the super soldier serum work the same way in the MCU as it does in the comics? Because sooner or later in the comics, your body begins to break down due to the soldier serum. So if that's the truth, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, that's why we would never see like Isaiah Bradley being like a villain, because he's old. His body isn't working with the super soldier serum as much anymore. Yeah, he still has like somewhat of a strength aspect, but he wouldn't be able to use it to like its fullest extent back like in his prime to that extent. So I kind of wonder if it breaks down over the years with the body like it does in the comics, which would kind of also tie that off for Rogers as well, because it's like he went back and then just wanted to live the normal life with Peggy, and then fucking died, whatever. So I don't know. Like I said, it's just it's an interesting concept, because like I said, everybody else, there's not a single other person that's taken this that's been painted out in like a good light whatsoever. I mean, all the flag smashers, once again, obviously depending on how you look at it, but all the flag smashers you consider terrorists. You've got, like I said, Isaiah Bradley, shit was done to him, so it's kind of like and we don't know anything else that he's actually done besides fighting in the war. And then you've got Winter Soldier, who obviously spent a majority of his life as a hitman, assassin, so it's just interesting to see like where, let's say there's been, I don't know, 20 chances that they've taken so far of creating super soldiers. 1 out of the 20 lived to be an actual hero.
I'd say it's not, Bucky is getting there. It's not the serum's fault that he was like brainwashed by Nazis.
Fair, but but basically what I'm pointing it off of is like how Zemo decided to state or to make that statement. I don't think Zemo thinks that Bucky is completely out of the brainwash. I definitely feel like Zemo thinks that he could bring Bucky back in if he wanted to. I definitely don't think Zemo thinks that the Winter Soldier is dead at all. Yeah.
He's definitely hinted at that, and I think he wants to make sure that everybody else thinks that too, so that way other people are prepared.
Right.
Yeah, whether it's true or not, because I think Zemo wants people prepared to take him out if he gets triggered again. Yeah. Because Zemo just thinks he's inherently dangerous and was like, you guys are protecting him like a pet. This is a pet that's going to turn on you, and you need to know that. Yeah.
So, like I said, it's just, like I said, I just really like the way he phrased it, and it really made me think about, like I said, I mean, it does kind of feel like one of those things that could turn into, like, a what-if scenario, where it's like, what if Captain America chose to stay? Would his brain change due to the super soldier serum at some point, whenever it's, like, he's, like, considered the pinnacle of, humanity? I mean, everybody always has. I mean, it's been played out in multiple different hero stories. Superman's been one of them. I can't think of anybody else at the top of my head right now, but Superman's been one of them where it's like, when you get to that certain peak, where does your brain go with that? Like at some point, do you change? Do you then become that villain? Where like Superman for the longest time was looked at as he's a god among men, and then it's like, okay, I am a god. Like, why do I have to sit around and waste my time with, your normal day-to-day bullshit? I am a god considered And then you had to get brought down a peg by someone who doesn't even have fucking superpowers. But, it is what it is. So
I mean, most versions of Superman, I feel like, never get to that point. That's always like some Elseworlds injustice
Which is why I kind of said a what if scenario.
Yeah.
But
so right,
like
yeah,
I said,
then,
I really like the way Zemo phrased it. Like it really made me think like, holy shit, that would be interesting to see what would have happened if like, would have got that far, or if that is a thing. Like, is Captain America's sole personality the exception to the rule? Like,
I think that's what they're going for, is to say that he is just pure of heart in a way, because he wasn't seeking power. Like all these other people are like, not all these other people, but the Flag Smashers and Walker specifically just want power, and then that desire for power is inherently corrupting or whatever.
Right.
So Isaiah doesn't have the same problem. He's just mad because rightfully people experimented on him. He doesn't seem to have lashed out in any way. He's just...
And also before people experimented
isolated.
on him, like he experienced the world as a black man in a time when the world was way worse to black people than they are now, and now is not a great time either. So, like, I think he had reasons for being angry before the serum was ever introduced to him. And then he had reasons for being angry when the serum was introduced to him.
Yes.
At some point... Go ahead, sorry.
No, I don't know, I was just going to say, in the comics, he was a World War II guy, now he's a Korean War guy, and I don't know exactly how that changes the timeline of how shitty his experience was, but I'm sure it's shitty either way.
I don't think Korea was that long after World War II.
Like 10 years, right?
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure in that period of time, they were still doing some real bad things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, there are two major things that I still want that are on my list. I'm sure you guys have your own lists. But John Walker took the serum in this episode.
Yeah, that happened. 100%.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Why didn't they show it?
I think that they wanted more of the... It's hard to say that they would want to go for the surprise factor, because once he threw that shield and it went halfway through the wall, it's pretty fucking obvious at that point that he obviously took the soldier serum.
Well, when he bent that steel bar around that guy's hand, that's when I was like, oh, you already fucking took it.
Yeah.
This wasn't going to be a build up to the final episode. Like, you just... Fuck.
Now, I
think that's what they wanted, is for you to go, oh, fuck, he bent that steel bar, instead of, oh, he's breaking the steel bar, that thing I know he can do.
Where my curiosity is with it is, like, they kept showing, and I don't know if you guys picked up on it like I did, but before his, like, first interaction, they showed, like, this drop of blood that was coming down from the top of his head.
I saw that,
and it got bigger and bigger by the time it got to the end. I don't know if like he just said fuck it and was just like in the side of his fucking head. I don't know what the symbol of that was supposed to be, like what they were like trying to get at with that. It was just because like they kind of zoomed but not zoomed in on it. It was one of those like they zoomed in on his face, but it was like awkwardly like, hey, look at this small drop of blood, and then it's like then he gets into action, so it's like it didn't come from like someone fucking him up at all. And I was just like, what the fuck is this supposed to mean? And then it was just like at the very end, they zoomed in on it again, and it was a lot more blood that was pulling down. But I was like, I don't know what this is supposed to mean. I don't know if like I said, he just injected it directly into his brain. I don't know what the fuck he did. I don't know what this is supposed to mean. So,
which makes me wonder, like, how fast is this freaking serum supposed to work? Like, usually your body has to like metabolize a little bit, like there's a lot of body to go through. It takes a few minutes for your blood to circulate. Like I imagine even if the change is instantaneous, which is insane, that it would take at least 8 minutes to get to all your limbs. But I'm wondering if that's why he was twitchy. I'm not sure if you guys noticed when he went into the room
he
with
was extremely twitchy.
He was doing his twitchy thing, and I was like,
they were showing like the super hearing and shit like that too. So, and that's whenever I was like, okay, he obviously took it already. But I mean, it happened to Steve Rogers very fucking quickly, but that was like a whole goddamn machine, and we have no idea how much serum they were actually pumping into him. Versus this is a pretty small vial. So yeah, that is interesting.
We also don't know, did he have multiple injection sites, like which would speed up everything? Like,
there was like a shit ton of needles they put into him, wasn't there?
Yeah,
like whenever they were closing him up in that Iron Maiden, there were like fucking like 8 needles alone on the top. Yeah, he's getting pumped full of that shit.
The scientist guy says it's like it's a new formulation I've made where I made it so it doesn't make your body all weird.
Yeah, he said it's more subtle.
So you can't. It works differently now, I guess.
Right.
You know.
Well, I mean, especially to bring somebody who probably weighed like I don't know, 80 pounds soaking wet to fucking buff master, 320 pounds solid fucking man muscle. So, I mean, dude's
Do you need
huge.
to fan yourself after that statement?
Yes, I do. Fucking Chris Evans is a good looking man. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that.
I'm not going to fight you on that.
That's the what if scenario I want, is what if Steve Rogers had taken this modern formula instead, where it doesn't change your body at all.
No, but can you imagine him being like
weird, tiny,
and him going in and like tiny short him like leading those guys after he rescues them, like, because he'd still do it, but he'd be so adorable coming out there.
Yeah,
that's cute.
So yeah, I guess one other thing that I definitely wanted to break into, and this one's a little bit quicker, but just to kind of confirm. So factions now at this point, I feel like we got a lot of them. We've got, obviously, John Walker was his own faction, which I guess you can kind of say was the army themselves, the U.S. government. That was one faction. We had Sam and fucking Winter Soldiers one, and then we have Flag Smashers. We have Wakanda is now in play. Zemo is obviously his own thing. We've got the Power Broker, which we don't know for sure whether or not that Sharon, I think is her name, right?
May or may not be.
May not be in league with the Power Broker.
I think
so
Sharon's
if she's
probably
not, then contact. She's her own faction. I think so too. But if she's not, then she's her own fucking faction. So it's like we have so many different fucking people. It's like, holy shit. So yeah, it's that to me is kind of interesting, like how many people they keep bringing in with it not being too much yet. Like that kind of blows my mind, because like it could very easily get overwhelming, very easily.
It could get Game of Thronesy real fast, but because of how
especially
they present
with 6 episodes.
Yeah. And it's not coming across that way. You're like, you can easily differentiate the factions, what their priorities are, and you understand and recognize them when they show up and start interacting. That's a really good point. That probably wouldn't be, I actually take that back. That wouldn't be easy for a lot of people to do, but they did a very good job of keeping that from being confusing and terrible.
On like a macro sort of level, there's only really 3 most of the time. It's like, it's John Walker, it's Bucky, Sam, and Zemo together. It's Flag Smashers. Like, I think the Wakandans are probably out of the picture now. They have their like fun moments.
They still want Zemo.
Yeah, but like Zemo's gone somewhere else. Like they'll appear again, but like I think that was like their fun fight scene, and now plot relevance is kind of spent. I don't know. And Sharon's on some side. I think we'll see who the Power Broker is.
I hope so.
I think that's going to be who the Power Broker is and how they behave and what they want is going to be very relevant to the way this ends, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I wonder.
It may not be, but
it's just like they're not like what's the word I'm looking for? They don't have like agency in this whole thing, really. They're only involved because someone robbed them. So
that's fair.
Their only real beef is with the Flag Smashers.
Yeah. The Wakandans?
No, Power Broker.
Yeah. Sorry, I got distracted. I apologize.
Yeah.
No, that's
so.
Fair.
There's an element of like the Power Broker shouldn't be like this big deal at the end because Sam and Bucky don't really have any direct issue with that.
And there's nothing that they can do anymore.
Right.
But that doesn't. Yeah. Powerful people don't necessarily like being told there's nothing I can do. Sometimes they want to take their pound of flesh. It's just who they're going to take it from.
Yeah, I mean, so it could only be a thing. I don't know.
It could be a thing because they still want, like, the Power Broker still wants Carly, right?
Yeah. Also, on that front, those two need to interact, but there's a question of like, do Falcon and Winter Soldier ever need to actually have conflict? And I think because of the way the show, like, it would be lame if they never meet the Power Broker. So I guess somehow that'll have to happen.
Yeah.
Unless they want the Power Broker to be a villain through more than just this show, in which case they set him up here and then he shows up somewhere else.
Yeah, which I could definitely see with how they're leaving a lot of these shows kind of like not necessarily
a little open-ended
threads, but a little open-ended. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, really the only last things I had on my list was I felt the threat call was weird. I don't know. Like that just seemed like just the fact that out of nowhere she just calls Sam's sister to be able to try to get, I don't know. I just felt like that was forced for plot reasons. in my opinion. I could have just been not necessarily looking at it correctly, but I just felt like that just seemed very forced as far as like, what's the one way we can get in touch with Sam, even though he showed that he was very open to having communications with her.
Open to having communications with her, but I think this experience was to show us two things. First, who Sam is when he's under pressure. Because even though Carly told him, like, I have no intention of hurting your sister because hurting you or hurting her isn't going to do shit, even though she was honest about that, she still made the threat. So figuring out who Sam is when his balls are in a cinch is very different than who Sam is when he's in a place where he thinks he's in power or can like negotiate with you as equals. Like when you're under stress, you're a different human being. When the people you care about are threatened, you're going, if there's any time that you're not going to pull a punch, that's the time. And so figuring out who she was actually dealing with, that scene, and seeing Sam still willing to talk to her, seeing that he is still willing to understand, he is still willing to negotiate. He's pissed, but he's still human and he's still good, and he's not just coming out with like fists swinging, I think was valuable to teach her that she could trust him.
I would agree with you if she wouldn't have gave up that information to him right away. I feel like he showed up and he was like, what the hell? So now you threaten my sister now? She goes, calm down. I never would have done anything. I feel like if she would have held on to that towards the more end of the conversation, it'd be a little bit, and I'm not saying that is wrong, because I definitely see where you're coming from. I just feel like maybe they if they wouldn't have jumped the gun with that little bit of information from her to him, it would have made more sense to me at the time. Like, because it was like right off the bat, she says that, like right out the gates, where she would have been like, they would have had the dialogue back and forth. She would have seen that he was still willing to talk to her without actually thinking there was a threat. And then her going, by the way, I would never do anything like that. You guys singly are not like a target to me. That would have made more sense than like literally her first sentence right out the bat was like, I would have never touched her. Don't worry about it. I'm never going to hurt her. I was like,
there's another layer to it where she didn't necessarily, the point of calling wasn't to make a threat. It was to get independent verification that Sam wasn't with John Walker.
That's fair.
Like, those two guys were not buddies. That when Walker came crashing in on their conversation, it wasn't a planned setup
by Sam.
Like,
right.
She needed to know if Sam was worth talking to in the first place. I think it was what she was looking for.
And the threat didn't come into play until Sarah wasn't sure she was really going to pass on information, at which point it was like, okay, I'm going to push your buttons to get what I want. And then it was, she tried to diffuse as fast as she could once she got, because you're right, she had kind of gotten the information that he might be trustworthy. And then so she tried to diffuse, and he didn't necessarily diffuse, but I think without this call, without this interaction, if she decided to trust Sam, it wouldn't make sense to us. Like, it wouldn't, she would have too much reason to doubt him when John Walker broke in for it to feel real for them to ever form an alliance and ever rely on each other.
Yeah.
I think we needed this.
Yeah, because John crashing that conversation was just, ugh, what a dick.
So fucking, God.
So, I mean, it was right up something he would do.
What an asshole.
Yeah, but you're still disappointed. It's just like, ugh. So I had something that I still wanted to chat about real fast.
Yeah.
So I have this argument with my husband that all of the MCU, from Iron Man until Endgame, all of that is entirely about, there's side movies, so we're going to ignore those, but all the major ones are about Iron Man's personal development, Tony Stark's emotional arc. Like, that is one gigantic arc to get him to the moment he needs to be at Endgame. And one of the major reasons I say this is because in Civil War, when he and Cap are having that battle in I don't even know where the fuck they were, but it's the one where they're in the dark and it's just the two of them, and like Bucky's been tossed out and like Cap's like, get out of here and stuff like that, and Iron Man is full ready to kill Captain America and would not have held back, and like shows that he's willing to kill him, and Cap gets the better of him and has the opportunity to take that shield and behead him if he wants to, or kill him, or do any of those things, and he doesn't. He incapacitates him so he's not a danger. And it was like, that was one of the driving moments to show that this is about Iron Man's development, and this is also Captain America, because my husband believes that Captain America had an arc, and I'm like, no. Captain America is who he is the whole way through. He does not have an arc. He is who he is at the beginning. That Civil War scene proves that he is exactly that person again, and then he stays that person the whole way through. This is about Iron Man's arc, not Captain America's. So I loved that they mirrored that moment where Cap showed, like, I know you're willing to kill me, and I know you, like, we are playing for keeps. This is not a joke fight. This is not something where we're pulling our punches. We are bringing our all, and you are trying to kill me and somebody I care about. And he left with incapacitating him. He didn't leave with killing him. He didn't leave him without any hope. He incapacitated him and left. And they mirrored it and had John Walker actually kill him and then stand up with that incredible shot from below where you've got him standing there holding the thing and it's got blood all over the bottom of it. I was like, I loved that they mirrored that, and it was just so dramatic and hella cool.
Yeah,
terrible, but hella cool.
Absolutely. And yeah, that was my last spot on my notes as well. Was just what I titled it as, is the destruction of the legacy.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. It was great for them to mirror that. One of the things that I really wish they would have done is some of the dialogue that was in the comics and was also put in the video game Ultimate Alliance 2 was done really well. Was a conversation that happened before that whole fight goes down, before Cap and Tony. What actually sets it off was Iron Man argues with Cap saying, I don't understand why you're against the registration. You're already deputized. Everyone knows who you are. Why are you fighting this? And then Captain America's like, I'm not fighting for me. I'm fighting for the ones who have something to protect, the ones who don't want their secret out there, the ones who have actual skin in the game. And he's like, I don't understand why you're so willing to just give everybody up and go against it. And he's all like, I don't know what you mean by give everybody up for. And he's like, oh, I know what this is about. Like, this was the fucking Steve Rogers says to Iron Man. This was like such good, just back and forth. It was so great. He literally goes, I see what this is about. A brand new promotion, nice little shiny desk job at the White House, maybe SHIELD, maybe become Nick Fury's boss or something like that. Is this what this is about, Tony? And he's all like, I would never stoop so low, Steve, as to do something like this for a promotion. He goes, yeah, that's right. They wouldn't let a drunk like you in the White House anyway. And that's what started the altercation between the two of them in the comics and in the video game. And I was like, holy fuck. Like, yeah, so like you get that charged like dialogue, and then they go right into that fucking fight, and then they still have Cap choose not to end it, but just incapacitate him. It's just fucking amazing. So, but yeah, no, that scene in the show, I was like, holy fuck! Like, I mean, I knew once he had him down, he was gonna kill him. Like as soon as he hit him in the back,
there was no way he was.
Oh yeah, he's dying. 100%, he's dying. But just I like how they brought it to a modern world situation too, with like everybody standing by and recording it. It just hit like a whole new level of just like, holy fuck. And just like,
there's no way he's getting out of this.
Yeah, no way he's getting out of it. And it was just, like I said, or as you said, the shot from below where it just shows the blood on the shield. I literally said it out loud. I was like, that right there, that's the legacy is tarnished at this point.
Yeah.
Like the shield will never, and you just see, that was probably my favorite part of it, was as soon as they show that, they go to show his face, and you actually see Falcon put his head down in shame. Like you literally, because they're like both watching him and Bucky, and Falcon puts his head down in shame. And I'm just like, damn, he is really regretting giving up that shield now. Like that shield,
whatever damage he could have done to it, he could not have done that.
Not have done that. Exactly. And it's just like, holy fuck. Yeah, that was a good episode. It was a fucking good episode. I was really impressed with it. Yeah.
I talked a lot in this particular. JoJo, did I talk over you? Did you have any final thoughts or any last things you wanted to bring up?
I feel like I said the words I was saying. I'm good.
Okay.
Kelsey's like, just want to make sure, double checking.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
I mean,
yeah,
I'm loud.
We all are. But yeah, so we're going to go ahead and wrap it up there. Like I said, this was a awesome episode. I kind of feel like the momentum we got from this episode has to carry out through the last two episodes. I mean, we only have 2 episodes left. So there's no way that they're going to hit us with this fucking high, and then we're going to have a lull, and then fucking
and then it's just going to dribble off.
Episode is going to be, whatever the fuck it is. It's just, I mean, it's not Game of Thrones. You know what I mean? Like, Come on, it's not Game of Thrones. So, oh,
thank God, right?
But we'll see what happens. But we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up here. If you guys enjoyed this show, make sure you like and subscribe. Also, comment. Hit us in the comments below. Let us know your thoughts on what happened. What you thought about any of the stuff that we talked about. If there's a specific scene in the show that we didn't cover that you thought was kind of pivotal and want to hear our thoughts and views on it, throw it down there. Also, make sure you hit us in the Twitters and the Twitches below. If you want more direct form of communication or come hang out and watch us play some video games. On top of that, we also have the merch down there too, is another great way that you can support us. If that's not a route you want to go, once again, comment, because that seems to be the new algorithm, and I don't know why. It doesn't make sense to me, but it's there. Plus, we love fan interaction. So get down there and comment, because we like to talk to you, damn it. You know I'm down there all the time.
Maybe lead with that next time rather than,
Woo! Exactly. So... Other than that, hope you guys have a great week. We'll see you next time.